Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rediff podcast. We have with us today the lovely and gifted Kritika Kamra, fresh off the delightful film, The Great Shamsuddin Family. And before that, of course, fabulous OTT shows like Sare Jahan Se Acha and Bombay Meri Jaan. Kritika, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having.
You were wonderful in The Great Shamsuddin Family. It was just delightful. That film is such a sparkling film. How was the experience?
Thank you so much for being so kind to the film. You have, even off camera, said such lovely things to me, and I'm really grateful for that. The experience was, just like you see the film is. It was almost like being on a holiday with family. We shot the whole film in about 22, 23 days in Delhi. It's all in one house. It's the story of this one family in one day in one house. So we were pretty much captive in that space. And to be in that house every day with these wonderful women was an absolute treat.
Yeah, there were, say, 14 women on the cast of
Yeah.
16.
Yeah, lots of women, primarily women in the cast, and so many women behind the camera as well. Of course, the director who leads our, who's the captain, and then so many people in the direction team. Costume generally has more women, and our sound department had a woman, lots of women even behind the camera.
So, what have been some of the reactions? It has been some time since the film came out.
It's been very warm. I've got good reviews before, but the kind of writing that has happened for this film, the analysis, the personal messages I've got, long paragraphs by people who could really connect with my character and the vulnerability of the character, and just about how brave the film is, has been truly special. It's not like any other thing that I've experienced before. It's also been really slow, steady, and organic, so it feels earned. It feels like the film has been discovered by people in due time, and then they've sort of watched it. A lot of people have watched it multiple times. My Masi messaged me yesterday saying, you told me your parents also watched it. And so people have rewatched it to just for a fun feeling, to be able to notice some more nuance. And so yeah, I think it's really meaningful the way it's been received. It's not just ki ha maza aaya, it was a good pastime. It's been more than that. It's been something that people have connected with and has made people feel, think, and a lot of people also feel that it's refreshing because you haven't seen something like this in recent times.
The director, Anusha Rizvi, said that you were phenomenal and you had read so much about the script, and she said that you were just so good, and she called you an intelligent actress. So how did you prepare for Bani?
Anusha is too kind, and I think the entire credit is hers to take for every character, not just mine. Film is the director's medium in any case, and this is written and directed by her. It's also personal. It comes from lived experience and things that she's observed in her life and family. So it's the world, and these people are absolutely, created by her. And it's very easy especially when you work with the writer director, I think they know the characters so well. And they tell you so much about these characters, and there's so much on the page already that you don't really have to do a lot in terms of prep. This was also something that you had to just be very honest with. This is the kind of film that doesn't require you to, go through a physical transformation or pick up a dialect or, those kind of actor exercises. This one was more about just showing up with absolute honesty and be giving, because in an ensemble also, like, it's a lot of give and take, especially in comedy. So just to be present, to listen, to be able to give, to be able to receive, it was a really beautiful experience cerebrally also.
So had you met somebody like Bani Ahmed? Did you?
I met Anusha Rizvi. she's a lot like Bani. I mean, this is how I tease her. In fact, there are some shoot stills that I think now are on social media as well, where she's dressed like Bani. So she's wearing a t-shirt with like a shirt like that, and also the glasses that Bani wears, like I wore in the film, are now Anusha's. So she's absolutely adopted that style even. And a lot of the banter between the sisters, that comes from her own sort of like conversations with her sisters and friends. So I think there's a lot of Anusha in
Mania, that cranberries t-shirt.
Cranberries t-shirt was my pick. I'll say that. That was mine. That was the only perhaps contribution in the look and feel of the character. The glasses also, we tried some 200 frames. It's not such a big deal, but every detail was important. And also the whole film, I'm in one costume. All of us are, it's one day and I don't even get to shower in the film. So I wake up like that and just throw on a layer, and that's how I am in the whole film. So we wanted it to be really lived in, and we tried a few plain t-shirts and all. And I was like, I feel like Bani would like the cranberries. And I just wanted to use that t-shirt and we got that.
So does Kritika Kabra like
I do actually. I do, yeah.
that song?
Exactly. And I just felt like it was a song such a big deal when we were in school and college. And I feel that for Bani also, maybe she would have heard it at some point. And she is somebody who has so many books and art in the house. So I think also with her clothes, there would be a little bit more personality, something that she loves or likes.
And for your other roles, when in preparing for those roles, like the Sare Jahan Se Acha, and you played a gangster in Mumbai Meri Jaan.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare for those roles?
Each role and each process, I think, is unique. Every character needs something different, and a lot of the times it's sort of dictated by the director. I am absolutely somebody who surrenders to the process of the director, and I find that satisfying and also really challenging to be able to completely submit yourself to somebody else's process and do what they think is the best, because nobody knows the story or nobody knows a film or a show more than its creator, director, showrunner, whatever it is. So it's been different for Mumbai Meri Jaan. I had to pick up a body language, a dialect. I didn't grow up in Bombay, so that whole Bombaya slang and that was a very important part of the character. There was also this dark psyche of the character that one had to really understand, even though it was hard to relate with, because those are not that's not my morality. So that was different. For Sai Jahan Se Acha, I play a Pakistani journalist. So again, these are both also period shows. So that era had to be kept in mind. The way the character speaks again, the Urdu. In fact, Urdu in Great Shamsuddin family also, I had to make sure. I mean, they really, both Anusha and Mahmood are very particular about the nukta, obviously. So I had to make sure I don't falter. And even with Sare Jahan Se Acha, there was a rhythm and a pace to how people spoke before cell phones. And I remember watching some old interviews of Benazir Bhutto and even Shashi Kapoor, and they were not related to the character in any way, but just because they had a certain poise and a way that they spoke. So that was for a fun thing I did for Sare Jahan Se Acha. And so it's different things for different characters. I'm currently in prep for a film that requires me to be quite fit. So I'm really focusing on now the physical sort of like working out, taking my supplements, doing all those things, because I'm working on a tight timeline and I have to look a certain way in about 4 weeks. So it's just different characters challenge you in different ways. And I think that's my favorite part about this job anyway.
So what is this film?
This film is it's an indie. I cannot tell you anything about it right now. It's too premature. But it is something that requires me to look strong.
And also this film, the film talks about the anxieties that is faced by Muslims today, young Muslims today. So did you feel any pressure while portraying those fears?
No, that pressure is, I am privileged enough to not have to feel that pressure. But the film talks about this better than I can. And I think the one recurring sort of feedback has been that, oh, it's so nice to see a normal Muslim family. Now that I know is intended as a compliment to the film, and it is a compliment to the film because that's what makes this film really relevant in today's times. But it's also kind of like makes me a little sad about the society we live in, that just portrayal of a normal Muslim family is extraordinary. It's not something that we see so often. So, so yeah, I think the film does this beautifully. The film sort of shows you, almost makes you feel the fear that one would feel, the fear that these characters feel without actually showing anything. And that is unfortunately the reality. And yeah, I think that's what makes this film important. I didn't feel any pressure. In fact, I feel responsible, and I've been quite vocal about my opinions, but of late, I think that the space for nuance or a constructive conversation is just really getting smaller and smaller. So I want to be able to say something through my work. Now again, this film is entirely Anusha's, but to be a part of a film that is doing something important is a great privilege, and I would like to be aligned with more such work.
So personally, like on social media, and do you have you become a little more cautious about expressing your views?
I'm not cautious. I think, again, because I am privileged, I think, perhaps the fears that Bani feels about expressing herself, I do not, because that's the privilege that I have, being part of the majority. So I won't say I'm scared, although one is seeing how difficult it kind of is to talk about certain topics, even in cinema, with the kind of films and the struggle that certain filmmakers. I mean, it took Anusha also about 8 years to find funding for this film, for whatever reasons, right? So that we know is difficult. That is the reality of today. So as an artist, you feel that, but as somebody in the public like space and quite protected in my life, I don't feel fear. I just feel that we've kind of lost the art of conversation itself. I just feel that it's all about hot takes, and also I also I have great respect for people who still use their voice and are able to talk about these things and issues on Twitter. But when you see that yielding no result, it's not very encouraging. So I am just not very high on hope, and hence I'm not as active as I used to be. But of course, I think through work, and nothing better than film, because films last forever. If I can be a part of a Bheer or a great Shamsuddin family, I would like to be.
Talking about the experiences and these amazing actors that you worked with, from Farida Jalalji and your Ammi, which is played by Dolly Ahluwalia. Yeah, there were several moments you must have had off the sets. What were some of those memorable ones?
Oh, we had a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I think firstly, though, just seeing women of this age doing such fabulous work is really inspirational to me, because I want to be able to act like Farida ji is in her 70s. I want to be able to do it when I'm that age. I hope people will have me, but I would really like to continue acting for the rest of my life. So just to see her zeal and passion for it even now, when you don't have to as a career, is just something that you're doing it for art, you're doing it for the love of film and the passion. So that's incredible to see. And these are incredibly talented women as well. I mean, Dolly Ji is also a national award winner for costume, Bandit Queen, and many other great works, and on stage and in film. So she's really multifaceted, and they were also very chill on sets. They would really have a good laugh and banter, and nobody would go to their vans after their scenes were over. You would just sit in the living room and have tea and chat. That's why it felt like being on holiday, you know, like, I don't know, being at my nanny's house or something. It felt like that sometimes. And yeah, then there's Sheba, whose work I mean, I'm a big fan. And then Juvi and Shreya, two sisters, I found, and I think they're going to be friends for life, sisters for life. So some really deep bonds were sort of forged during this process.
So, what are the fun things you did in the, wherever you all were free during those weeks in Delhi?
we ate a lot. There was some incredible food on set. So we ate a lot. There was a new dessert every day. There were kebabs coming. There was like street food, chaat. If we got the time, we would go out and eat. Shreya is a big foodie, so she would really lead this. On set also, people would break into a song. Suddenly Farida ji would sing some song or tell us an anecdote from, you know, from her early days with Raj Kapoor and then with Yash Chopra and things like that. So there was just some Bollywood trivia gold on our sets. And yeah, we actually just spent all the time together. We didn't get too many offs. We shot it. It was a very tight schedule. We went to Delhi. We blocked for like 4 or 5 days, like you do for a play. You rehearse the whole thing in the space, and they decided camera and everything, and we started rolling. And we finished. By the time we finished, in fact, the last few days of shoot were also kind of tense because that's when the war, the tensions on the border had started. And, there were blackouts and there was like, it was all over the news and there was uncertainty. You didn't know how much would Delhi be affected, where we were shooting. Was it safe? Should we go back? Some shoots were also stalled during that period. So there was some uncertainty and stress during that time. But we managed to finish it all in one go. And in fact, the last scene that we shot is the last scene of the film, where we're all singing and that song. So it was a perfect, rap day, perfect ending where everybody involved was on set that day, that night. And yeah, it got a little emotional and we finished and got a cake and, and when the dholak comes from Kapoor uncle. Yeah. Kapoor uncle, my neighbor.
Your journey is something to be very proud of. You started, you came from outside, you came to Bombay, and then you've charted this course for yourself. So have you reached a point when you can look at scripts and say, oh no, I won't do this?
I've been choosy actually. I've been choosy from the beginning. Of course, I've come from outside, so there was always like I had to make rent. I had to make a place for myself in the city. There's a certain lifestyle that I have as an actor, and I've sort of like, that's what you do. You kind of like try to make it better. So life is comfortable today, and I was never touch wood. Like I didn't have to really fight for survival because I got lucky with just my first break itself. Like I came to Bombay with a job and then continued to get work. But there was a time when I was creatively not happy, and then there was a bit of a creative struggle in that sense where what I was getting was really not what I wanted to do. So I started saying no. I started saying no even when I was doing television. I was kind of after a point, because my education in cinema also happened while I was working. I started acting when I was 18. So my taste and my, bent also sort of formed while I was working. And then there was a disconnect between what I was doing and what I wanted to do. And hence I quit TV. And since then, also again, I have been choosy. I've been able to say no. But it's not like I have 10 scripts and I say no to things. I always have to choose from what's on my platter. But I'm kind of getting more sure about what I don't want to do.
And how difficult is it to break that barrier from TV to OTT? How was it? It comes with some sort of risk also.
It does, because I was in a really secure, well-paying sort of, not job. I'm a freelancer. It wasn't one job, but that had kind of become easy for me. I was in a place where I could work on my own terms. Television pays you really well. So only when I had the financial security to be able to say, okay, I'm now going to not do television and wait for films and OTT to come my way. And OTT was not actually a thing back then. Only Sacred Games, I think, was being made when I did my first film. And then it became that. But I was quite sure that this time round, I'm going to write the script of my story. I am going to make sure that whatever I do on OTT is of my liking. And I waited for the first one to come by, and Tandav was the first web show that I did. And I'd said no to a few things before that because I knew that coming from television, I already am boxed in this stereotype that I need to break out of. I have to be very careful with what I do later. So, I mean, i- of course, one wants to only act and have a good time, but career management is also a thing. And I've always been like, I don't have a mentor. I don't think I've ever had an agency or somebody established in the industry decide what I should do, what I should not do. So I've not had that luxury. So I've had to be quite careful about my choices because I know how quickly people box you in these stereotypes because I've had to fight those. And no matter what people say, I know a lot of people have transitioned from television or, you know, there definitely is that demarcation still. And I think it's harder for it was harder for me to be able to prove myself and find that confidence in makers to get the parts that I'm getting today.
And you said you were just 18 very young, you moved to Bombay. And that way you had that storybook start where you were spotted outside your college. So what was, I mean, when somebody offered you, a career or a break in show business, what was your reaction for a young girl? What did your parents think?
It honestly wasn't, it didn't feel so special at that moment because I remember I was bunking college. I went to NIFT Delhi and I was outside NIFT. And not just me, we were a bunch of friends just there, I think having coffee or something only. And somebody came and said that we're holding auditions for a TV show. Would you like to come? And a friend of mine wanted to go. So I just went as her plus one. I accompanied her to the thing and I was waiting. I remember it was a room like this. They were auditioning inside and I was waiting outside. And somebody came to me and handed me a one pager, like a script, because they thought that I'm also here to audition. So I read it and I was like, yeah, sounds like, seems like fun. Let's do it. And I went inside and I auditioned. I didn't know what an audition was. I didn't even know there would be cameras. I thought maybe it's like, you know, stage auditions where they say, okay, do a monologue and show. It wasn't. There was a proper script and there was a light and a camera and everything. And I did it and forgot about it. 2 months later, almost 2 months later, I got a call from the production house saying, can you move to Bombay? And I said, what do you mean? They said, we've shortlisted you. We've actually, like, you're our top choice now, but only if you can move to Bombay. So I called my mother and I said, I've got a call like this. And she said, are you sure? Is this even legit? Like, this could be a hoax. What do you mean? My faculty and friends at college were also quite upset. They were like, what do you mean? You'll just leave everything and go? And I said, I want to give it a shot. Let's see. So I came to Bombay with my mother and we went and met the producers and everybody. And they were all really nice, kind people. And I got a contract. So when I got a legal paper, it got real. And then I came here, but it had not really sunken in. I didn't know what was going on with me. It just sounded like a fun thing to do on the side. I thought I'll do this one show that I've got selected for. Obviously, I'm not going to find work after this. I'll go back and resume college. And, but yeah, but that show happened and then I got a TV show that really put me on the map. So suddenly that work got easy for me. And I started enjoying it immensely. So I never went back.
And was it hard to continuously get work, or were there periods of lull which made you anxious about?
On television, not for me. No, I was really blessed that way. The first decade of my life in Bombay was actually just, it feels like a blur now. I worked 16, 18 hours every day. I finished a project, got another. Sometimes I was doing two at the same time, like a non-fiction show and a fiction show. I just worked. I just worked nonstop and I loved it. And I now looking back, I don't even know, like, I don't think I can work those hours now. But at that age and at that time, because even the first day on set, I instantly fell in love with the world of filmmaking. It wasn't so much about like being famous or stardom or whatever. Of course, everybody enjoys that. That's great. But just, I was fascinated by the technical aspects of filmmaking. Because before that, I'd only ever seen things on screen. Like I had never even possibly thought about how what I'm watching on TV is made. And then to get to see that was really special to me. And I fell in love. And I knew very early on that this is my calling. And I'm so glad it happened to me the way it did accidentally, because I would have never pursued it. Because I didn't know it was not an option growing up. I come from a family where you only become a doctor or an engineer. This is not a, nobody even is in the arts. So
And you intended to be a doctor.
I did. I went to Kota to prep for it because my dad's a doctor, and somehow, and I grew up pretty much in a hospital. We live in a campus that has a hospital, a school. Yeah, it has a hospital, a school, and just people who work there. That's all that there is in this little campus in the middle of nowhere in Madhya Pradesh. My parents still live there. That's my hometown, and I'd only seen doctors growing up. So I was good at studies. So it was just sort of, I don't know when it was decided or even just assumed, but it became a thing that I'd become a doctor. And I went to Kota and I found it really depressing. I came back in 3 months. I didn't like the lifestyle. I was okay studying. I enjoyed biology a lot. I still am very curious about anatomy and nutrition and medicine in general, as like recreational reading and stuff. But yeah, just that the lack of structure, not going to a school, going to a coaching class, but not having the community and the camaraderie that you have in a school. I really missed that at that age. And I told my parents, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm completely went the other way. Left science, took up humanities, started doing fine art, political science, history. These are my subjects in 11th and 12th. And then went to NIFT, to a fashion college.
And it's nice that your parents understood, because parents also have dreams for children. And
Yeah. I think they were a bit disappointed, probably, but they never made me feel the pressure of it.
And once when you started work in Bombay, and did you have any bad experiences that young girls go through in getting roles? Bad experiences?
Not firsthand, because I was lucky that I didn't have to stand in queues to get my first break. I think I got sort of saved from this side of the world. But I knew about it, and I would get that feeling sometimes from certain people and distance myself. I also had some wonderful senior people who would tell me what to do, what not to do, and what kind of cast and directors or people are legitimate, and how can I check, and where should I meet them, and what offices should I go to. So I had that, because on my first show I was the youngest person on set. In fact, even on the second one, I was the youngest person on set, perhaps. So some senior actors and directors were very helpful. So I was kind of, yeah, I think if I had just come to the city by myself, I could have encountered something,
And in this journey, how do you cope with the low moments?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't think I know I cope with them better than I used to, but I don't think I've still reached a point of like all abandoned and I don't care. The highs are wonderful, but the lows are also really low. And that's just something that you have to kind of make peace with when you want to be in this profession. So I don't know. I think what keeps me grounded is my family, my friends, where I've come from. And then, like you said, I don't think I ponder on this very often, but on days when I'm not feeling too good, it helps to look back and see how far one has come. Those days, I think it just gives you a little bit of like courage and push to sort of keep going, and to always remember ki I didn't come so far for it to end here. I have a feeling that there's a long way to go. That is something that I'm a very rational, I'm a very realistic person. I'm not actually so optimistic also. But that is the self-belief that I inherently have. And that's why I'm able to continue to do this.
And does it become easier with success? Do people's attitudes change towards you? how does success change things?
100%. It's very stark. In fact, a film set is somewhere, a, a film set is a place where it's most stark. The effects of stardom or success or perceived importance. There is a hierarchy even amongst the actors. In any case, I think it's all built around the actor. Everything is done for the actor to be comfortable. I think we're the most like we're well treated. We're sort of, I think actors are the most comfortable on set. Everybody else is working twice as hard or probably more. So it's sort of tailored in a way for you to be good. And even in the actors, you see the leads, supporting cast, and all of that. So you see that. And then of course, when you go out into the world, into like events and to film events and awards and everything, there it's even more stark. So you see the hierarchy, and you see when things change for you. You see when how popularity or mainstream acceptance changes the way people treat you or look at you. That is definitely there.
So, of all these diverse roles that you have played, when you go outside Bombay or elsewhere, what are the roles that have stuck in people's mind, your characters?
They are my television. Like I said, the penetration of television is unparalleled. So they are definitely my characters from TV shows like Kitni Mohabbat Hai, Kuch To Log Kahenge. A lot of people still call me Arohi, which was my character name. In Kitni Mohabbat Hai, Dr. Nidhi. There was a show I did called Reporters. So Ananya in that one. I think these three are the ones that get most love. But recently, I have to say, Shamsuddin also has been like that because of the relatability of the character. Of course, when you play a gangster or a cop on screen and everything, people appreciate you, but not everybody relates with that so much. Those are like more like hero or like anti-hero, those kind of parts. But Bani is also somebody that a lot of women, especially women, have written to me. And I'm not just saying we like your performance or we like the film, but actually listing out the moments from the film, dialogues from the film. So that is a huge win for the film, I feel.
Are there any messages that have remained with you?
The one moment that is perhaps written the most about in reviews and personally to me as well is the moment with Humaira in the kitchen where I say, I don't want to take care, I want to be cared for. That I think a lot of women could relate with. Because, and I think even I did when I read it. I think all of us have felt this feeling, especially the women who are in charge of their house or the older daughters or, or just, I think every woman, because a woman is just expected to multitask and to excel at everything, to balance everything perfectly. There is no scope for you to fail. And I don't think we allow ourselves to fail even. So we live under this pressure all the time. And sometimes, even the people who take care want to be taken care of. And that particular moment, a lot of people have written to me about.
And, you worked with Pratik Gandhi before, and now you work with Vijay Varma. So what was that experience like?
It's great. They are both extremely professional. Pratik I've known for a long time. We did a film together many years back, and then of course scam happened and Pratik was everywhere. And Sai Jahan Se Acha we again worked together. He's somebody who truly deserves all the success that he's got, and he's such a committed actor, also such an intelligent person. I really like how he views the world and how he wears his stardom that he's acquired so lightly. I really have a lot of respect for him. And Vijay again is an actor who I've seen a lot of his work and always liked it. So it was great to get to work with him on Matka King. It's also directed by Nagraj Manjule, who's again somebody whose work I really admire and had, followed for a long time. It was very smooth working with him, really comfortable. And I think that when you get to work with good actors, it reflects in your work as well. And because I am not a trained actor and I have learned everything on the job, I'm very happy when I get to work with good actors because I know that's going to make me better.
You work with so many diverse actors. So who are the actors that you have learned most from?
It'd be very hard to say, and I'm sure I'm going to miss out on some. So, oh my God, lots of incredible people who I have looked up to as well. I think KK Menon in Mumbai Meri Jaan, incredible. He's just, we know this as an audience, but also to see on stage. Nivedita, who's also his wife, very, very good actor. Shiba ma'am, Faida ji, of course. And see, I'm telling you, I'm going to like not remember people. But I think I've been lucky to find some incredible actors in every team I've been a part of. I really have. I've always had like some favorite person in the cast. And it just so happens because when you sign or when you're testing for something, you don't know who's going to play the other parts. So when the cast comes together, in fact, it's one of my favorite experiences is the first table read because that's when you get to know who's playing what and they talk in the character's language and suddenly it sort of starts coming together. So I've been really lucky, but lots of incredible people to thank and not just actors, I think some incredible directors I've got to work with who've really shaped the actor in me and also the person that I am today.
You know, the locations that you shoot at. So when you finished your shooting, are there locations that have stayed with you and you said, oh God, this was really nice and I want to go back? Are there locations that leave lasting?
Yeah, they always do. And also memories because shooting is such an intimate process. You know, you have to be emotionally available and almost like bare in a way. So you tend to absorb a lot because you go in with the intention to absorb. And then when you have these moments, like if you've had an incredibly emotional moment in a place, it's hard to then detach that from the place. So those moments really stay with you. Like some locations where I've shot have really meant a lot to me. The sets of Great Shamsuddin family, all the art in the house and everything, it really felt so lived in and because it was my house. And I spent so much time and it wasn't like a set, like the kitchen was functional. I used to go in and make my own coffee and all. So that was really special. The sets of Mumbai Meri Jaan were made beautifully. The detail of everything, the production design on that show was incredible. Like even the shops that you see, they were not facades. You could actually go in and maybe pick up a thing from the shelf or a book from a bookstore. That's how detailed it was. So very, very cool. I also shot Gyara Gyara in Mussoorie. Beautiful locations. Just waking up to that view every day was so nice. And the weather, it almost again felt like, you know, to be disconnected from the city life and inhabit some other place as a character is really special. For Tanda, we shot in DU, where I had hung out with my friends and, you know, I knew all the places, I knew all the eating joints. And then to shoot there was also really fun. So, yeah, that's a
Yeah, just getting disconnected from the city and adding.
I really enjoy that. I love shooting on location. I like outdoors. Also, you don't have to worry about sitting in traffic and getting back home and also decide aaj khane mein kya banega. All those things you don't have to do, which I have to do as an independent single woman living alone. So I really like shooting on location because then you can actually be that character for some time. Oh my God, my favorite experience actually is shooting in Mandava for Kaun Banegi Shikharwati, this show I did. This was in after the second lockdown when shoots were allowed again. And we were in a bio bubble. And because it was a bio bubble, we couldn't like come back. So almost for 2 months, we were stationed there in this wonderful resort. We shot there, lived there, had every meal together. Some of my closest friends in the industry now, Anya, Soha, both I found on that show. The director, Gaurav Chabla, the writer, Ananya, all of them, they made it so warm for us. Nasir Saab was playing our father in that show. So he would challenge us to TT games in the evening. And we would go horse riding and all those things because there was nothing else to do there. And you couldn't leave because you didn't have the time to go test and quarantine and come back. So it was really like being in a bubble of our own, and the way we connected on that show I think what I've taken most from that show is relationships. All of them have remained very good friends of mine.
So there have been several uh, opportunities where you've taken your relationship off the sets to personal life with your friends and actors who become friends.
Yes, I've been incredibly lucky to find people who I can call friends today. And I think I'm that person also. When I go in, I give it my everything. I'm absolutely all in. And I'm also, because I've lived alone and changed so many schools and stuff, I'm also quite adaptable. And I know that we're creative nomads and sometimes some relationships are going to, get left behind. And that's okay. That's fine. That's what adult friendships are. And so I'm very happy with the ones that carry on. And I'm also have fond memories of friendships that were just on that set and sort of remained only there.
Yeah, we've recently seen very nice pictures of you over the New Year break
Yeah.
with Zahir Khan and Sagarika Kadge and Gaurav Kapoor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the new year has ended, sorry, the last year has ended on a high, both professionally and, shall I say, personally.
It's been nice. I've really enjoyed these last few weeks, especially since the Great Shamsuddin Family came out. I love that this film was getting sort of felt like I had earned a break and I'd earned a getaway. And Rajasthan is beautiful, unparalleled, best hospitality in the world. So, I mean, some of us planned to be there and some others were just there already. So it kind of became like a big group for during the New Year in, and it was great. Back to work now and looking forward to what this year has to hold.
And you brought it in with your significant other.
Yes, I would say that, yeah.
So, so personally, what are you aspiring for this year in terms of both romantically and professionally?
Oh, I'm not somebody who makes like great big romantic plans or anything. It's just that I think to be surrounded by people who love you, support you is just so important, especially when professionally things are so chaotic and not in control at all. That's something that has always anchored me. I've really valued my relationships and family and friends and all the important people in my life. So it's gonna continue to be like that. And it's nice to have that back home when there is uncertainty. And there is a lot of uncertainty as far as work goes because things have not on OTT been the way they were, say, 2 years back even. And also what's happening in the world, so it kind of like shakes you a little bit. And so it's nice to have a cocoon of your own to sometimes go into.
And is romance hard in the public eye?
I wouldn't know. I've been really like private about yeah, I've been actually quite private about that part of my life. Nothing I do is reckless in that sense. Whatever I put out is also, I would say, unconscious of what I'm doing. So I only want to share what I can take reactions or feedback or any kind of like commentary on. And there's a lot of my life that is also not on social media. So I think it's a balance that one has to strike. I also don't want to live a life where I'm sort of hiding and not doing things like anybody my age would do. But I'm aware because I've been doing this for a long time. I'm aware that there is scrutiny that is going to come my way no matter what. So I'm conscious about what I put out.
And what are the fun things that you like to do when you have free time?
I like to sleep a lot. I love sleeping. Seriously. And I'm a binge watcher. I watch a lot of content, films from everywhere, shows, and I'm a binger. I can't watch one episode a day. Like all these weeklies that have started. Apple TV does some great shows, but they drop weekly. They kill me. But I watch a lot of content. I love it. And I just tell myself that I'm an actor. I'm allowed to.
Like you said, independent women, one important decision to be made every day is khade mein kya banega. So how do you decide on all that? Because that's the toughest answer.
So because I was telling you, I'm quite interested in like the science of nutrition and everything. I sort of know what I should be eating. I may not follow it to the T all the time, but currently I'm on a very good sort of, I would say, lifestyle. So I know what I want more or less. And at home, I'm a simple eater. I'm a Punjabi, we're a Punjabi household. We love our parathas and we love even our chola bhatura and rajma chawal and all that. But I know how and when to have that in the day. I don't do any crash diets. I don't restrict myself in a way that I eliminate food groups or say I don't have this ever. I don't do that. I have everything in moderation. And at home, it's been many years, so I've kind of become okay with it, but some days I just can't. So then my Didi is amazing. Then she steps in and she takes care of it.
So, what are some of your favorite foods?
Like I said, I think, and especially right now in this, whatever, if you can call this winter in Bombay, I love my parathas. I really like a good paratha. My mom makes the best ones. I think everybody feasts their mother's food. I also, yeah, I'm predominantly vegetarian. I really enjoy home style vegetarian Indian food. And more sabzis, dal, dahi, salad. Like that's my basic lunch pretty much every day.
And what are some of your all-time favorite holiday destinations?
I love London. I really like London. It's got the right, I think it feels like a city, but also being in the city sort of cut off from everything and be in nature, absolute nature. So that's lovely. I love Kashmir. Kashmir is stunning. It's beautiful. Very warm people, excellent food, views to die for. I also, closer to home, I like Goa a lot. Lots of friends now and lots of friends who have houses there. I know a lot of people who live there now. So it almost feels like being in Bombay, but also have a beach to go to. I quite like Goa as well.
So, are there any immediate things on the bucket list that you hope to, finish this year?
Oh no. Right now, the bucket list is to be physically strong. So I have some goals as far as weightlifting is concerned. Those I want to really be able to. Also working on my core strength, so I want to do that. I started working out, I would say, like a little later in life. Growing up, I was not so disciplined, but I really enjoy it now. So I'm just hoping to keep this going. I just want consistency. No, I mean, nothing. I'm not aiming for anything great. I just want to be consistent and be better than yesterday.
All the best to you, Kritika. It is just beautiful, lovely talking to you, and I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you. This was really good fun. Thank you.
Thank you.